It's the sign. Good morning, dear Dr. Rosensweet. Good to see you as always.
You too, Carolyn. Good morning to you, dear Carolyn.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's our Tuesday interview. Very quickly, let me just interject. Next Tuesday is the 4th of July. So we've decided that we are going to go ahead and do our Facebook Live on Thursday. And good morning, Facebook user. Good morning to everybody who's coming up. Uh, but anyway, so I will go ahead and post that so people know. Have a happy, safe 4th of July, and then we will see you guys on Thursday with our questions. Done. Good morning. Good morning. Okie dokie. So we, as usual, have our questions, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay.
Great.
Cool. Okay. So for you, Dr. Rosensweet, number one. And this is from the back end of our last question last week. Do people tend to go through an actual hormone withdrawal when they stop taking hormones? Question I get often, big fear.
No.
Okay, moving on.
No. There are certain substances that if you stop those substances, like some of the narcotics, you go through a rough period called withdrawal.
Not fun.
Biologically, it's a very tough ride.
Yeah.
Alcohol, same thing. And it's that nothing like that happens when you stop your ovarian hormones. Nothing like that happens.
Oh,
However, you're going to sooner or later, within a week or 3 weeks, drop your 4 precious, wonderful ovarian hormone levels down to very low. Low estrogens, low testosterone, low progesterone, low DHEA. And since these are the most powerful biochemicals in our body, amongst them, the other hormones are also extremely powerful. When you don't have those powerful biochemicals, you don't feel good. So if you're going to start getting symptoms of hormonal insufficiency, most women will. 25% of women, interestingly enough, they don't feel the low hormones.
interesting.
75% do. Now, the women who don't feel it, they still get the bone loss. They still put their arteries at risk. They still
You
lose
froze.
the women. Am I okay right now?
Now you're okay. Yeah, you're okay.
Okay. The 25% who don't actually get the symptoms of low hormones, they still get the losses. They
Right.
still get the loss of muscle, and you can see it in thin thighs, thin calves, flab in the triceps area, weakness. Eventually that muscle loss leads to canes, then walkers, then wheelchairs.
Do
And
women
then
shrink too? Do they like their
they
back?
do,
Yeah.
they do. So do men. That's from the loss of bone that occurs in the 25% and the 75%.
Right.
25% who don't feel symptoms, they shrink, they lose bone. And when you lose bone in your spine, you get shorter.
I'm shorter.
I was
I'm 3
once
feet
6
tall
feet,
now.
I was once 6 feet tall. I'm 5'11" now.
I was 5'2". I'm now almost 5 feet.
All right. So all women get the same thing. And now their arteries are at risk. And there's a long list of things that happens when we lose these powerful and important biochemicals. It's not a withdrawal. It's just you go back to the menopausal state of low hormones, and you can have cognitive issues. You're going to get arterial issues, most likely, bone loss, muscle loss, sleep, mood, libido, losses in every department, loss of bladder control. It's pretty much going to be a guarantee. I'm sure there's some women that escape in one sense or another. You do hear stories of she was 104 and still cranking like a locomotive. But these are very rare.
As you said, don't bank on it.
Yeah, don't bank on it, right? Exactly. So no withdrawal, but you get the standard garden variety symptoms and signs, losses of these powerful and important biochemicals.
I'll move on to question 2 in a sec, but I know that there was a time, and there probably still is, when doctors would say, okay, we'll put you on hormones for the shortest amount of period of time. We'll let you have them for the shortest amount of period of time, and then you're off. And many women experience that. What's that all about?
Good follow-up question, Carolyn.
Well, been doing this with you for a while.
The that was a thought of somebody's mind to
Got it.
compensate because women and men have been receiving hormones for 1,000 years, and that accelerated. It was the elite, the rich, the wealthy in various countries that were receiving hormones for 1,000 years. Most of us were not. But then in the 50s, Premarin, a horse urine derived estrogen, was invented. And, by 2000, there was like 18 million American women on Premarin and Prempro. So a lot of people were receiving these hormones. Why were there 40% of women in menopause were on these hormones? Why? Because they liked them. They felt better when they preserved their bones and their mood and lots in their vaginas,
Right.
just to name a few. That's why there was 18 million women on it, because they were extremely popular. And when one woman went on Premarin and started experiencing the benefits, she would call a few friends of hers and say, listen, you got to go to your gynecologist and get this Premarin. This stuff is good stuff. I'm not here to, laud Premarin, although it did a lot of good. That's not my first choice, but bioidenticals are for sure. But why am I saying this? Because in 2002, as you know so well, a false scientific report exploded out into the world. It was falsely reported. The results, the study was stopped for false reasons. It was the Women's Health Initiative, and what it declared was there was increased risk of breast cancer in Prempro, one of the two hormones being studied. But it wasn't statistically significant, and it never should have been published, because in science you don't do that kind of stuff. You publish stuff that is significant. What statistical insignificant means, there's no conclusions can be drawn.
Right.
Well, that's not what the press did and the world did. It scared everybody. And 18 million went to the low millions. 18 million American women were on Premarin and Prempro, went to the very low millions. Everyone got scared. Well, then the women who lost those hormones, some of them couldn't tolerate the loss. They couldn't sleep. They couldn't think, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so someone invented this idea. I don't know where it originated. We'll take the smallest amount for the shortest period of time. It was a total invention, because they knew these women were too desperate and it was too deleterious to withhold hormones from them. So they invented this. There was no studies backing that up. It was just an invention. Thank God it happened, really. I mean, at least there was some compensation. But in 2002, when I read that study, and many of my colleagues read that study, we went statistically insignificant. Why did they publish this thing? How in the world did this misogynistic event take place on the planet Earth? Well, there's been other misogynistic events, so it wasn't a total shocker.
That's true.
As well as some other lousy events.
Right.
No political commentary intended. That's true.
Right.
It happened. Well, we saw that the study was faulted. We saw the European literature on bioidenticals, and we just kept prescribing the bioidenticals we were doing. Of course, that study was retracted. The original study committee published in the original journal in 2017 After 18 years of follow-up, there was no increased risk of breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke. They know it all along. They knew it by 2006. They actually knew it in the beginning because it was statistically insignificant. But what prevailed? How many physicians and women on this planet know that that study was retracted? There's a few. There's more and more each day. There's good physicians like Dr. Avram Blooming out there pounding the pavement, including myself and many others, saying, no, 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 that was false information about the risk. And not only that, if you don't take hormones, it's a near certainty you're going to have major losses.
Yes.
And that's not just for women, that's for men too.
Yes.
You don't take testosterone, man, you're going to lose stuff you're not going to want to lose.
Correct.
And so anyway,
I'm sorry.
The lowest dose for the shortest period of time was pure fantasy coming out of fear. Let me give you what our recommendation is. And I don't stand alone here. Take the optimal dose for the rest of your life. I will be taking my testosterone every day I'm on this planet, and I will never stop. God willing. Still get the bottles, you know.
I'm right with you there.
That's
I'm not a man.
What is optimal dose? Not too little and not too much. Not too little, not the lowest dose for the shortest period of time. No, the optimal dose. And this means if you're in perimenopause, get going. And if you're in menopause, really get going. And if you're in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, with proper medical care and attention to some increased risk factors that happens with that exalted age, once you're cleared, start them then. I started my mother and my mother-in-law in their late 80s with benefit. Now, better to start earlier, but hey, anytime. And take them for every day that you're on the earth. Optimal dose. How do we define that? Well, we have a 12-hour training program and a weekly grand rounds and a mentoring program to assist healthcare professionals how to determine what the optimal dose is for, now hear this, the individual woman. Men, we all look alike, sort of, but we differ biochemically. We differ in how sensitive we are to anything you give us, how much we need of any particular thing. You name it, how well things absorb. We differ for a lot of different reasons. Well, guess what? Women are also individuals, and women differ woman to woman. So one dose does not fit all. So you want your job, and this is the only job that I see that's so important for a perimenopausal woman or a menopausal woman, is go shopping and find a licensed healthcare professional that has been trained and has a deep interest, and best yet, is specializing in treating women in menopause with compounded bioidentical hormones. That's your job, and someone that you like and you can trust and talk to, because you'll have a onboarding process. You'll have a dose discovery process that takes us in our scrupulous method. I think that's a word, scrupulous.
It is indeed. I can spell it even.
Right. It takes us minimum 4 hours, maximum 24 hours over the course of the first year to dial a woman into that optimal zone, right where everything is sitting where it ought to be for her whole life. And then, you know, sometimes you need tweaks in our annual visit thereafter. But once you're dialed in, you got it. So you want someone who knows how to individualize you. And you know what? I want to add this. We're increasing access to highly trained, even special healthcare providers who are specializing in treating women in menopause and men in andropause, because we're now including men. And yet, your first number one job is to find one of these folks. And in the interim, before you find one of these excellent folks, if you can find anyone who knows a little bit about hormones, you're going to do well. And if you get overdose symptoms, you're gonna feel them, and you're gonna want to reduce the dose. So if there's a physician or nurse practitioner or a prescribing compounding pharmacist or a PA that is prescribing, start there. These hormones are going to do you good. You don't have to wait to the Tesla. Fords run
Right.
beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yes.
new Ford hums. So get in that Ford.
Yeah. Cruise
Or
along.
Chevy.
You will
It
find your.
just and then you can upgrade over time, but if you get a patch in Prometrium, that's going to be a great start for you. So, but find your way to the organic oils based compounded bioidentical hormones. Find your way to us, the menopause method. Bright, we're coming out with a very excellent deal.
Oh, man.
Looks like there's a possibility of some of the people who start with us in the beginning are going to be able to pay $99 a month for all four of their ovarian hormones. That's quite a. You contact Carolyn or Sherry, you'll be put on the list. It looks like we'll be dispensing our first prescriptions in about a month.
Wow.
About a
I mean,
month.
yeah, I'm chomping at the bit. I get a lot of questions. I keep saying I'll put it out there the minute I know it's
Yeah.
going to be put out on blast and in a big way.
Any healthcare provider in the United States can prescribe them, and they can talk to us to learn how to prescribe them.
I want to see that
And
box again.
other hormones and organic oils. Oh my God. What about that? Rather than in creams and gels, which have they're strong. Those are strong solvents. Those have toxic potential. So anyway, I don't know where that question began. Somewhere back there. Yeah,
Well, with
too little. Yeah, low dose for the shortest period of time.
that and withdrawal. So I guess women don't have to fear an actual like narcotic withdrawal type
No,
thing.
no, they will not have that happen. I've never seen it.
Well,
You never say never in medicine, but um, I've never seen. I always see when a woman stops her hormones or a man stops his testosterone. Well, things don't work quite as well.
no,
to
no.
put it to put it mildly.
Yeah, it's miserable, to be
Yeah.
honest, having gone through it. And many of us do. And so there's hope on the horizon. And we thank you so much for
Mm-hmm.
all this hard work that you and Andre and Joshua and Sherry and the team and everybody has done on our behalf. I mean, that like who does that? You do. And that's amazing. And we thank you so much for it. Um, I see. How did you contact them? Thank you. Just contact me, Carolyn Shapiro. Get onto the ins and outs of menopause with David Rosensweet, MD. And you can reach out to me anytime. Get onto the group. We'll respond to your post very quickly. Promise. Anyway, so number two. Is there a way, Dr. Rosensweet, to regulate cortisol naturally?
Yes. Next question.
All right. Well, we had a no for the first one, a yes for the second. We're just flying through this interview.
uh, Cortisol is the most important hormone in our body. It's one of the most important biochemicals in our body. It's produced by the adrenal gland. If we don't have enough cortisol, we don't get to live.
Right.
That's not true of the other hormones. If we lose thyroid, for example, we'll be in bed all day. So you got to remove your thyroid gland and don't replenish thyroid, but we'll still live. Not true with cortisol. It's that critical. And it plays into so many biological functions in so many ways. And it can go out of optimal levels. For example, cortisol has daily biophysiologic functions, but it can be recruited for additional functions should the need arise. And the additional function that cortisol is famous for being recruited for is the biology of the stress response. The fight or flight response. Saber-toothed tiger leaps out behind the bushes. I remember it well, sort of. You got to be prepared for fight or flight.
Yeah, you don't even
Or
think about it.
where's next month's rent coming from?
Right,
Same biology. Or
right.
there's some relational stress, or I've lost one of my relatives is ill. Same thing. You get a whole different biology. And cortisol is at the vanguard. It leads the way. It functions as a phenomenal stress hormone. And it does a lot of basic functions. And I'm not going to go in there, but I can tell you, it heads the cortisol and adrenaline. They're at the front of the pack for the major biochemical, biophysiological um, event that takes place when we're stressed. Or another way to put it is, I live out in cow country. Howdy.
The thing is, it's
Um,
funny is you're frozen now, right in that position with your hand out and the cow. That's pretty funny. Are you there? Sorry, everybody. That cow kind of threw us off guard here. Dr. R will be back in a minute, so you're stuck with me. Um, please, Dr. R, come back. To the Facebook user who says, how did you contact them? Thanks. Just to let you know, I am on Facebook. My name is Carolyn Shapiro. You can send me a friend request. I will respond indeed. A lot of people who are on here uh, know how to find me, and I'm more than happy to give you the information for the ins and outs of menopause with David Rosensweet, MD. And yeah, then you can get all the information that it is that you want. And where is my dear Dr. Rosensweet? Where'd he go? Oh no, please come back because I don't know how to entertain all of you by myself. And I have all these questions. Oh, so I guess collective deep sigh, and we'll wait for dear Dr. R to come back because I know he's trying diligently to do. Mm, where'd you go? Ay, ay, ay. Come on, Dr. R. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I would hate for this to be a wrap. For any of you tuning in late, next Tuesday is July 4th, and we will not be doing our interview that day, but we will be doing it the following Thursday. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll put that up on the group as well. And ladies, let everybody know that you talk to that tune in to our show, which may be just me today, and that would not be cool. Hmm. I don't want to have to reboot. I may have to. I'm hoping not. In the event I have to reboot, I will do, and all you guys just come back up if you'd be good enough to do. There we go.
there we go.
We had a wonderful conversation while you were gone. kidding. That cow was hilarious, but he
Yes,
got us
right.
off track. Welcome back.
So
Um,
pick up where
cortisol.
where I left off. It was around cortisol is getting mobilized along with adrenaline at the forefront, the vanguard of the biophysiology of fight or flight. And its levels increase. And if there's acute stress, those levels rise really high because they do so many good things for fighting or fleeing. And if there's chronic stress, the adrenal gland is told to increase your output, keep those levels high. And that's what happens is it's these elevated levels of cortisol sort of chronically. And they can occur at the wrong times of day and night. Like cortisol is most abundantly produced by the adrenal gland in the morning to prepare us for our day under normal, healthy circumstances. But if someone gets into chronic stress, they can be pumping that cortisol out at night. It's very agitating. You get off the regular cortisol diurnal, it's called, the time of day that it's actually produced at the highest level. That can be thrown off. And the question is, how do you regulate that? Well, there are nutritional supplements out there that purport to do that, but I must say, this is an opinion. I'm sure others will have another opinion. Absence of supplements was not the reason the cortisol went out of whack, and we want to deal with the cause. And the cause of this cortisol going out of whack is not stress. Stress is a normal part of human life. It has very, very important functions. The issue is not the stress of life. The issue is how skillfully do we deal with it? And unfortunately, most people, until they learn some information and tools and deploy the tools and get the support, most folks deal with it in a dysfunctional way. They they behave biologically as if it were a saber-toothed tiger. You get those elevated cortisol levels, elevated adrenaline levels, blood pressure goes up, pulse goes up, a ton of stuff happens. When better, we learn how to have the appropriate mental and emotional and life choices response to the stresses of life. And that's a practice. That requires the acquisition of information and tools. It's the great work. Like you could be in a relationship and you walk into the bedroom and your partner has left their socks on the floor for the 32nd time, even though you asked them to please don't leave your socks on the floor. And you go ballistic. Why do you go ballistic? It's just socks on the floor. This is not, the sky is falling. Because the intensity of your response can be fueled by emotional pain that you never dealt with and you just repressed, and it came exploding out at the socks on the floor. Well, that implies that human beings are harboring some repressed emotional pain, some repressed fear and sadness and anger and shame and guilt and emptiness and loneliness and meaninglessness and hopelessness and even shades of death energy not to be explained in this moment. There's the list, folks. Uncomfortable emotions that got repressed. And they tend to come out and they tend to leak through when you get perturbated, you get disturbed. Socks on the floor is only one example. You can think of thousands.
Yeah, the toilet paper roll being this way or the other way. This way
Yeah,
or the other way.
whatever it is. Or even harsher stuff. Your partner has been gruff to you at a time when you were open and vulnerable and you got a sharp response.
Ooh.
What fueled their sharp response? not the human in them. No, not their authentic self or their I am. What fueled that sharp response was pain that they themselves didn't even know was there. They came to this earth with it, in this lifetime with it, and they never dealt with it successfully. And then that hurts you, and then you go off the rails because the harshness, you don't have any space for it. And there goes the cascade of relational challenges that play out often in separation or enduring till death do you croak. Also not a great strategy. Oh.
May I quote you?
So what happened to me in my life at the age of 34, that's a little late, but better late than never, I had the full unveiling of the emotional pain that I came to this earth with, that had injured relationships and led to a divorce. And I took it very seriously. And I'm just telling you my path. I reached out with great commitment. Can anyone help? And you know what? I got a lot of help. And there is a tremendous amount of help available these days. You can learn about your emotions. You can learn how to heal repressed emotions through acceptance, called unconditional love of your very own self, to give you the short version of it. And so these things, these uncomfortable feelings are not, number one, triggering the biology of saber-toothed tiger attack.
Right.
Number two, making life a heck of a lot more pleasant. And it doesn't get rid of the stresses. They're there for a reason. And they change character the more skill you get, just by the intricacy of how life actually is created. But so that's the remedy. It isn't taking nutritional supplements. It is not a nutritional supplement deficiency that pumps out a blast of cortisol in the middle of the night, and all you got to do is take this plant-based medicine and it's going to fix you. No, this is a much more primal and primitive and powerful response.
Yeah.
That is going to be addressed improperly by better living through biochemistry, even though it's
Right.
sufficient in supplements, right?
Right.
No, here's the job. Seek out help. Have the question, how do I heal my emotions and my mind and my life? And really be committed to that. And you know what's going to happen? The teachers, the mentors, the groups, they're all going to appear out of the blue. Someone's going to say, hey, did you see this AA meeting? It's going to take place 2 blocks from our house. Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many people who have been devoted to their own healing that there are so many wonderful choices. You can go online and connect with 5 of the greatest mentors alive on this planet, or 50 of them, and learn from them. You can get help from counselors, many of whom really do have the skills and have been on their own healing journey. So that's what it's called for. That's how you regulate. That's how you quiet down cortisol and fight or flight.
Naturally.
You deal with what's causing the increased cortisol. And
Right.
it'll lead you more home to the truth of who you are and the life that is yours to live. That's the miracle. So regulate that cortisol, folks, by addressing the cause.
Oh, well. Yeah. It's a great, great answer. Thank you, Dr. Rosensweet, for that. You taught me that long ago, and I will forever be grateful. Whew. Yeah, I mean that's a deep one. It is. I'm sorry. It just always gets me whenever you go there. So I'm going to move on to question number 3, which is completely different. Um, and she says, and this is miserable, I know. I have a very horrible burning labia. I'm told I have vulvodynia, and I'm taking 50 milligrams of amitriptyline, but it is not helping at all. I've been doing this for 18 months. Is there anything else that a woman can do for this? As this is really awful. Thank you.
Um, well, there's so much I don't know. And as a physician, if I were in consultation with this woman, there's a lot more I'd want to know, like what's the cause of the pain in the vulva. So I'm going to have to address it in a general term and deal with one of the most common causes of vulva pain.
I mean, is that like vaginal atrophy or is it different?
Yes, the vagina and the labia, the entrance to the vagina, these are very healthy tissues in a young woman. They're rich, they're thick, they're loaded with these folds, they lubricate. And any gynecologist or anyone who does pelvic exams can see whether a woman's vagina is healthy or not.
Right.
And the health of that vagina is tremendously dependent upon hormones that come out of the ovary. Tremendously dependent on estrogen levels, on progesterone levels, on testosterone levels, on DHEA levels. Well, in a young woman, there's usually robust levels, so the vagina is very healthy. But as a woman goes into perimenopause and her hormone levels have dropped, let's say, for example, she's having intercourse, she may notice that intercourse is getting a little painful.
Ew.
And what's happening is the lower hormones have led to less health of that vagina. And when she goes into full menopause, it's a downward path from then on. It's the vagina gets less and less healthy. And you mentioned the word vaginal atrophy, this normal, plump, rich, healthy tissue that's so obviously healthy when it is, changes. It gets very thin and it leads to all kinds of problems. Even if a woman's not having intercourse, since the tube that empties the bladder empties into the vagina, that can get irritated. You can lose urine just from the irritation to the urethral meatus, it's called, because it atrophies along with the vagina. Can you actually see me, Carolyn?
I can.
You've frozen on my screen, but that doesn't matter. Would someone jump into the chat and tell us whether you can see us? So at any rate, these one of the most common causes of an extremely common thing in a perimenopausal and menopausal woman is vaginal and vulva pain. That's what vulvodynia means. It's pain in the vulva. And the most common cause, thank you, Facebook user.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The most common cause, and it's a common thing, is the loss of the ovarian hormones. So the remedy is replenish those ovarian hormones. And sometimes if the process of vaginal atrophy has gone pretty far, you'll get it back. You may not get it back to youthful levels, but you'll get it back to healthy levels. And it may take you 3 to 6 to 9 months of, consistent, proper hormone replenishing, but it'll come back. And not only will the vagina heal, but the bones that are also dependent on those hormones, your brain, your arteries, etc., your skin, they're going to restore as well. So there's other causes of vulvar pain. This is in the realm of a gynecologist. Sometimes a gynecologist or someone skilled with doing a pelvic exam is going to find other things, such as a vaginal infection, for example, that's led to inflammation. So there's more causes to vulvodynia than just the most common cause of vulvar pain, of pain on intercourse, of needing lubricant. If you need lubricant on intercourse and you didn't need it 10 years ago, you're already undergoing a certain amount of vaginal atrophy, which will lead to pain in intercourse if you don't use the lube. So that's a sure signal to do the only job you really have to do is find someone who's good at treating women in menopause with compounded bioidentical hormones. And download our book. If you want to know what good treatment is, Carolyn's made our book available on the ins and outs of menopause. We go into great lengths to describe this is what proper treatment is for women in menopause. This is it. Do that.
Yep, it's right there. It's a
Get it right.
great book. It's free. It's great. Give you all the information really that you need. And you wrote it. And it's now what, in its 7th edition?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I had some wonderful help from Shay Lindner and Sherry McCulloch. Oh my God, Sherry's input was tremendous as an editor there. And from
I owe
Josh,
my life to Sherry, I'm going to tell you.
the whole team. There's a whole team goes into productions that big.
Yep. Amazing, amazing teams, plural, that you have working with you. And I understand why. So I guess that taking this, that, or the other for 18 months, there are other options that one can.
Yeah, that would not be my first choice, nor would it be my 50th.
Okay, I guess that you wouldn't be interested in that one. Okay, got it. Well, thank you for that answer. Um, Moving on to question 4. This woman says, "Hello, I'm looking for some advice, please. I've been on bias 3 milligrams, 2 clicks for 1 year and 3 months. I had my blood drawn this week, and my estrogen is at 23, and maybe you can explain what this is, PG/MOL. So I think that's picograms per whatever. This seems really low to me. My doctor does not want to increase my dosage. I don't know why. Do you feel this dose is too high or could it be too low? Something's off. I'm postmenopausal. I'm 42, and I'd very much appreciate anything that you have to say about this."
Postmenopausal to me says that your periods have stopped. And if your periods have stopped, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone levels are very, very low. And so the question becomes, is that dose of biased adequate? And I don't have enough information about the dosage. 3 milligrams, I'm going to say that that's I'm going to make a wild guess and say that that's 3 milligrams per milliliter. And is that enough? 2 clicks. I can do the math on it, and I'm sorry I haven't done this math. I meant to do the math on this, and I want to do the math on this, so I'm going to do the math on this. So just bear with me if you would. I'm sorry that I don't have this done. But if you're, what is missing from your question is some information about, are you having any symptoms of estrogen insufficiency? You're saying it doesn't work.
She feels it's low. Yeah.
What does she feel, Carolyn? What symptoms?
She says that she feels that it's really low.
Yeah, well, when if she's making a guess that it's really low, that means she's not getting relief from the multitude of symptoms that can occur from insufficient hormones.
Right.
So I'm going to do the math right now because I have a calculator here. I'm going to make a wild guess. There's things missing here. And so she's probably taking a 0.5 milliliter. 2 clicks is probably 3 milligrams per milliliter. I'm going to guess 80-20 is the ratio. That is very relevant. So the clicks is probably 0.25. There are other click volume options. And so I'm going to say, well, this comes out as far as estrogen strength goes to 0.45 milligrams of estradiol equivalent. I'll give you an idea of what's average in my practice that does a good job is 1.7 milligrams of estradiol equivalent, not 0.45, 1.7. There's a range. Women vary, individuals. Some women do really well on as low as 0.8. And at the upper end, 2.6 is the common range of estrogen strength. You got to know some math to calculate it for biased. And so range in our practice is 0.8, the low end, 2.6, the high end. Where's she? 0.45.
Right. So she may be right. Low.
Yes, I would declare that low. Now there's information missing for me to be precise, because is it 80-20? That's what I'm thinking it is, because that's very common, biased. And is one click delivering 0.25, 1/4 of an ml? That's common, but that's not the only click dispensing possible. But if that is, you're about half. You're at the low end of what works in our practice. You're going to test low too. So doctors very commonly who haven't taken this on as a specialty don't know what to do. They hope that a low dose will do it, but this dose is too low. If I've got, there's things missing in the math. I'm not certain. So the job is the same. If this doctor is not willing, I'm happy to talk with this doctor, by the way. Carolyn can, if you going back into contact with Carolyn can put you in contact with me. Just get me your email address and tell me your situation. If your doctor is willing to talk, I'll have a phone conversation or a Zoom consult with your doctor. If your doctor wants to learn. If your doctor does not want to learn, you've got to appreciate that there's reasons why physicians got frightened. I've covered these reasons almost every single time. And if you're not specializing in treating women in menopause, you don't have access to the information stream. So you haven't got the news updates that dose is too low. It ain't going to work. The proof's in the pudding. You increase the dose and see if you get the symptom alleviation. She did not enumerate what symptoms of insufficiency she was having. So it's a much bigger picture. This is what makes it challenging to answer some of these specific questions on Facebook Live. There's a lot of moving parts to a human being. And how we address in the menopause method is someone that we consult with, it begins with a 12-page questionnaire. Tremendous amount of information about who you are and what's going on. And then we get ideas about our first steps, but shooting from the hip, not having enough information, you're on about half as much as the low end of what works.
Half of low end.
You're a fourth of what is average in our practice. The average in our practice of what works for women is 1.7 milligrams of estradiol equivalent. You're at 0.45. That's about a quarter of what's average. So I think your theory is right, questioner. It's certainly worth a try. It's certainly worth a try of testing out your theory. If your theory is right and you got actual symptoms of estrogen insufficiency and there's not other things going on, because we're talking midlife here, there's also possible other things going on. So that's why we work with so much detailed information of questionnaires and testing to see, well, where's the person at? But you could be right. Your initial theory could be right, so you test it. And again, what I can offer you that could have tremendous substance would be to speak with your doctor directly if they're interested in that. Or sometimes you got to find a hormone specialist and let go of, your doctor may have wonderful qualities that serve you greatly. And with great kindness and not much communication, you seek out a hormone specialist to handle the hormone part. And you maintain your relationship with your doctor for the wonderful many good things that they can provide you over the course of your lifetime, if you like them or if you love them. That often happens. So you don't want to let go of a great doctor
Mm-mm.
if the doctor doesn't want to, doesn't have the time, doesn't have the interest, has gotten frightened by the Women's Health Initiative. If they don't want to go down that path, that's the thing that this illustrates most of all. We have to be captains of our own healing process. We are the captains.
So
You
important.
can't turn over that responsibility. Even if you go to the best doctor in the world or doctors in the world, your health is really going to depend on daily choices of nutrition, exercise, detoxification, and how much skill you acquire and deploy dealing with the stress in your life. It's going to be up to you. It's what we do. We make 10 choices a day, probably, or 50 choices a day. To either augment our health or diminish it. So
You don't want to
I'm
diminish.
going a little far afield here, but I do want to say that you have to be captain, because ultimately you are the captain, and you can get some good suggestions and some good tools that really can assist you in this process. Great. But in the world of hormones, it's unlikely that you're getting optimal expertise here. And we're willing to help your doctor with great delight.
Would
Or you might have to move on. You may have to make the decision that they don't have the time or the or will or the ability to specialize in hormones, and they don't want to increase my dose. And you just heard it from the horse's mouth. That dose, if you gave me the right math, if that's 80/20 and it's 3 milligrams per milliliter, and you're taking 2 clicks of 0.25 milliliters a piece, you ain't got enough. You got about half of the low end and a fourth of what's average in our practice of estrogen needed. Some women need 6 times the amount that you're taking. It's no problem. Someone who's trained in this knows how to dial you in. Together, you find your optimal dose.
right. And that we are so individual really does speak exactly just to that. You know, you work
And you
with
can
your
read our book to get some guidelines of how we determine dosages by starting low and gradually increasing, and with the hopes of alleviating symptoms of insufficiency while falling shy of or backing down from symptoms of hormonal excess. These hormones are so powerful that in almost every instance, you take too much, you're not going to like it.
doctor.
You're going to feel it. And you
Right.
go, I was doing pretty good, and now I feel I got major breast pain. Oh, too much estrogen, folks. So download our book and you'll get the symptom list of what's too little and what's too much, and start there. Happy, healthy hormones. Find that symptom list. See where you're at. Not every woman feels symptoms, but 75% do. So see if you can identify any symptoms of insufficiency and take the reins in your own hands.
I think, yeah, the more we know, the less we fear, and then the more empowered it is that we become to be able to find our way and make those choices. You think? Yeah.
Well, I said my best offering there.
I will then move on. Um, I've been on bioidentical hormones, Dr. Rosensweet, cream form, for 1 year, and I'm still having hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, weight gain, and no energy, which is the worst. My doctor is not allowing for me to up my dose, and I don't know why. And I feel like I am going crazy in every way, truly.
What a great follow-up question to this last one. This woman is having the dramatic symptoms of insufficient estrogen just for openers. Insufficient, not enough. That's the most likely reason. Not enough estrogen. You're getting estrogen, that's good, but you're not getting enough. There is a uncommon cause where you're getting too much. Because if you get too much hormone treatment, it stops working. And you can be on an overdose of bias, for example, and get hot flashes because the whole interaction of the hormone you're taking and the receptor sites is screwed up because you're on too much. My guess is that the most common thing that's happening is you're not on enough. So if you get if you are able to communicate with someone who's specializing in hormones, just like happened with this last question, I was missing some of the more important parts, but I probably am correct that she was on too little. Someone can do the math, and if they really know their hormones, they're going to see that you're on too little. That's my guess. But there's lots of reasons why too little, or you may be on enough, but your skin may not be absorbing enough. So you might have an absorption issue. So you may need more milligrams per milliliter. It doesn't matter how much you apply to the skin. It matters how much is absorbed. So some women, we use these very high concentrations, like a common out of the gates starting strength for bias, which is the estrogen, is 30 milligrams per milliliter. Well, I have some women that I'm prescribing double that, 60 milligrams per milliliter, because their absorption is not great. I mean, one of the consequences of loss of hormones is the skin isn't as healthy. I'm just giving you one example. But with night sweats and hot flashes, these are classic symptoms of rather dramatic insufficient estrogen. And best you were under the care of someone who could do the calculations, who understood what the normal numbers are. Again, I would be happy to talk to your doctor, and you can we can set up a meeting through Carolyn if your doctor wants to explore this, which I'm delighted to do. But if your doctor doesn't want to explore this, it might be because they're concerned, they're afraid, and they don't have the time and energy to just pursue the information they need to realize that women are at less risk for breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke if they are treated with hormones than if they are not. Women who take properly prescribed hormones, ovarian hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA, are at less risk for breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke than women who are not receiving any treatment. That's the science. We're all at risk. There's 1,000 moving parts to how we get something like cancer, for example. So it doesn't totally remove the risk. I'm a male. I'm at an increased risk for prostate cancer. There's reasons why I'm at increased risk, but I'm at less risk if I'm treated with testosterone, which I am, than if I'm not. The same is true for women. Even more so, there's more documented evidence there that women who are treated with hormones in menopause, you're at less risk for breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke than if you receive no treatment at all. It doesn't absolve you of risk. Cancer creation, causes has thousands of causes, and some of them are obnoxious and need to be addressed.
I'm always shocked when you say that. I
There we
know.
go.
I see.
the wonderful hour has elapsed, and we
And the
get to
witching
reconnect
hour.
Thursday, not Tuesday, because it's July 4th weekend. But next Thursday, we'll we'll pick it up again, and then we'll go back to Tuesdays.
Correct. And I will go ahead and I'm going to save this so that we can more elaborate on what you just said, because you say it almost every interview. I think it's shocking to some people, and yet it is true, and it is the science, and we have you to explain that to us. So I'm going to wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend and Independence Day, and happy, happy to everybody. You know where to find me, or find someone who knows how to find me. I'm not that unfindable. And we will absolutely help you in the best way that we are able. So I will bid everybody adieu. Have a fabulous, fabulous few days. And we will see you next Thursday, not Tuesday.
Right on. Carolyn's
Right
girl.
on. Right on, our dearest, dearest David Rosensweet, MD. You have a fabulous, fabulous few days.
Thank you.
And thank you for our interview. We'll
Oh,
see
yeah.
you later.
My honor, Carolyn.
Oh my God, it's my honor. Are you
Plus,
kidding?
it's a fun thing
It is
because
indeed.
we laugh together and we have fun together. That's our synergy.
Yep. We've been
Part of our.
doing it a long time. It's fun.
All right. So I'll see you next Thursday.
Bye, everybody.